Hello, good morning. I believe everyone can hear me. Welcome to the Edustad Learn Fireside Chat today with Xiao Xuan. And I can see that Xiao is already here. Can we just click the raise hand button just to acknowledge the presence of our facilitator for today, Xiao Xuan. Xiao, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Awesome, good to
Very
have you.
nice to see you again.
Hello, good morning. I believe everyone can hear me. Welcome to the Edustad Learn Fireside Chat today with Xiao Xuan. Okay, so today we are going to be looking at something around product development like we can see on the screen. It's basically building human-centric products, an inclusive approach to innovation. And to our audience, those of us who are here today, let me just give you like, I'll still read out something about Sean, but just to give you like some quick background. Sean has been involved in product development like for years. She has also worked with the Paystack team and she directed product development there. She worked with Switch, also was deeply involved in product development, and now she's directing products at OPay, a remarkable company in itself. Despite the challenges, they were still able to find innovative ways on how to reposition their products and also serve customers and make things happen as rugged entrepreneurs. And so I expect us to look forward to figuring out how best we can develop human-centric products. She has been doing that for years, and from what she has learned, she'll be sharing with us today, just to give us like some background also on the importance of this. So the whole COVID-19 stuff, lockdown and experience, social distancing is helping us to rethink a number of things. That's for those who are really thinking, because this is the best time to really think. Like Paul Roma said, he said a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. So this is a crisis that we need to maximize if we're not going to be at the point of disadvantage. And so what Edison Learn has been trying to do is to engage persons like Sean to share from their knowledge and wealth of experience to add value to as many persons who would like to do something revolutionary in the midst of the whole setups and arrangements of the lockdown. So today we'll be looking at building human-centric products, using innovation, categorically just product development, and how you can develop remarkable products. And I hope you're going to learn a lot from that. Before we proceed, I'd just like to give us like a background on EduStart. So EduStart's mission basically is to cultivate high-grade entrepreneurs for a particular reason. If we're going to address the issues around Africa and what Nigeria looks like, then we have to be deliberate about the change. And I believe that those within the ages of 14 and 40 have crucial roles to play there. The more we can improve on our perspective and view things from an entrepreneurial viewpoint, we'll be able to do that. So I want to use this opportunity to also let us know that I'll be launching our Facebook at EduStart. I think you're even hearing this for the first time because this is I'm making it publicly. So we'll be launching this on the 30th of June. It's a Tuesday, 10 a.m. and it's going to be online. The digital version will be launched then. And the idea is to make this available as a good resource material for schools, whether they be high schools or colleges. I've been teaching entrepreneurship in Covenant University for over 10 years now. Started the Hebron Startup Lab just to see how we could scale that. And what I've learned over the years in cultivating high-growth entrepreneurs, I've tried to put that in the book, and we'll be making it available on that date. So it's a kick off from that day. Publicity is just beginning today anyway. So this EduStart Learn community, you're the first to actually hear this on this subject. So more details will go on this, and you might get an email in that regard. So let's talk about today. Looking at human-centric products. These are the hashtags we're using. I want the conversation to go on social media, so please take note of the hashtags as you can see on the screen: startup innovation, startup product, EduStart Learn. And you can see Sean's handles there for LinkedIn, for Instagram, and for Twitter. Please take advantage of those. For whatever she says that strikes a chord in you, please feel free to share on social media, and you can use the various hashtags. Those are my handles as well, like you can see on the screen. Take advantage of those also, and you can follow us on social media as well for the contents that we'll be sharing. So let's talk about Sean right now. Sean, don't ask me where I got this from. Let's just go ahead.
I wonder where you got it from.
Okay. My team did a great job at putting this together. So Xiao Xuan is the product director at OPay, an African-focused mobile payment startup founded by a Noan browser company, Opera. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. She is a seasoned business leader and advocate for people and development. She started a career advising FS institutions, that's financial service institutions, I believe,
Yes.
and coordinating efforts to push the frontiers of financial services in Africa across banking, payments, and financial risk management. She later moved into the technology space to build businesses geared towards improving payments in expanding digital economy and empowering Nigerians to build wealth by leading business development and partnership to deliver products. Shumo was the inbound sales lead at Spacestack. Prior to Spacestack, she was a management consultant at KPMG and then a project coordinator to Project Africa, KPMG's initiative to push the frontiers of financial services in Africa. She has certifications in project management, SAP, and digital marketing, also a business administration graduate of the prestigious Covenant University, which I'm also privileged to be a part of. So ladies and gentlemen, please can you click the raise hand button as a sign of applause?
Thank you so much for having me, everybody. Oh, so nice. Hello, everybody. Okay, do I have the floor now? Hello? Can you hear me?
I think you're using maybe earpiece or something. Oh, yes, I can hear you now. Better. So, okay. Sean, you're welcome. Thank you for making yourself available to share wisdom with us today. Thank you. Expectant. I'm looking forward to doing remarkable things. I'll still engage you in a few questions, and I'm sure the audience too will have questions. And to our audience, please, if you have any question, use the Q&A button, not the chat button. Use the Q&A button to share your questions if you have any, as Sean goes along. After her session, she will answer those questions, so you can start putting in your questions there right now. So Sean, you have the floor. You can have your session.
Thank you. Can you allow me to share my screen?
Oh yes, sure. I'm going to let me stop this so you can share your screen now. Yes.
Let me try that. Okay, I'm still not enabled. So you need to click on.
Okay, let's see. Yeah. Awesome. Yes, you can now. You can now.
Okay. Awesome. Share. Okay. I'm sharing my screen, right? Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Awesome. Okay. Let me launch that. All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I have always been a part of the Covenant University EduStart community. And so I'm super thrilled to be here and to share. I think that we are in very interesting times. We're learning and we're all just trying to figure it out, right? Because 8 months ago, we didn't know that this would be the world. This would be the new normal. And so there's a lot that companies who are at the forefront of just trying to survive, to grow, there's a lot that they have learned. And I'm very lucky to be a part of a team like that with OPay. So Doctor has already sort of introduced me, but my name is Xiao Xuan, and I lead product efforts at OPay. And what I'm going to be sharing today is pretty much how we have used an inclusive approach to product development to survive, and even in this uncertain times of COVID-19, right? Before I dive into my slides, essentially the overarching idea is user research should be front and center of your development efforts. Money is tight because the economy has the economy isn't in a very good position at the moment. So you have very little money, you have very little resources to build something that would be valuable to people. But to be able to successfully do that, you need to include the people who would be consuming this product in the process of building it. So let's keep that in mind as I go on with my gist, right? So the next slide is, nobody really asks you for this feature. This is something that people, I'm almost certain that people in product development or the tech space have heard before. Everybody has built a feature that nobody really needed, right? I see people who would build feature X and you'd find that there's no traction. Did you involve the people who would potentially use feature X in the process of building it? The answer most of the time is no, right? The lights is bothering me. 1 second. So it's a super important to work really fast, but include your users or your potential users in the process of building a feature or building a product. In a nutshell, as I mentioned before, to improve your chances of being valuable to a user, when you're launching a new product, you need to validate your ideas. As I'd mentioned before, user research should take front and center of your product development efforts today, because essentially there's not that much time and space that you have left to fail much, right? Because of the new world that we live in, especially at such a critical time. It's super important that you validate your product ideas before you scale or you grow, right? So when you are launching or when you're working on building, user conversations should be a continued thing. It is not something that you do at the beginning. As you hit your milestones in the process of building, involve users, keep having conversations, so that it's easier to move the needle on building something that you are sure is valuable. Here are a few reasons why it's super important to validate your product ideas, right? You need to do that as early as possible so that you don't make mistakes. We don't have enough money, we don't have enough time. Attention spans are even shorter now, right? You want to avoid spending time and money on something that just will not work, something that will not be accepted. So talk to users and save yourself the time and resources by understanding what is a pain point to them. I say to people, before you pitch something to me, understand where it hurts for me, right? It's super important that you understand that this is my need. For example, everybody's working from home now. I have a son, and my son loves his he's fully in, he wants to be in my space. He wants to be around me, but I'm taking calls. I'm teaching classes. I'm busy, right? So if you ask me, what is valuable to me is if you build a product for me that can keep him occupied and entertained and still happy, but somehow he still thinks that mommy loves him, right? That's a pain point for me. So I will spend money on products that would help me solve that pain. It's important that if I was building such a product, I will be talking to parents like Xiao, talking to parents who are working from home, who would appreciate their kids being adequately distracted from smothering their parents, right? So it's super important that as you build, you are getting my opinion on every little thing that you are working on in the product, if that makes sense, right? Figure out if people will buy your product before you build it. It's a fail-safe way to work. So, what are the strategies that would help you test your product quickly? Number one is to create consumer segments of your market. Let's take my homeschooling children education example. There are different kinds of stakeholders who are important to that product. Number one is me, the parent, who is buying the product and giving it to my son to consume it, right? Number two could be my son. is it appealing enough to him? What does the product look like? So that if he sees it, he's attracted to it and he's happy to be distracted by it. He's successfully distracted by this product, right? These are segments that should be thought of as you are building the product. So talk to me and understand that it is functional enough for me to say this is a good product enough for me to pay for it for my child to consume. Understand what children think of it. So in this example, I would create screenshots of like what the UI would look like, for example, and hear the opinion of children. Just show it to a child and see what they are attracted to. The screens that would attract a child are the screens that I'm going to take live, because I want the child, beyond me making a payment for the product, I want the child to be consumed by the product, right? Number two is to maintain a community of power users. So um, in the process of rolling out a product, say you've done an alpha rollout, right? Just 5% or just 10 people using the product. It's really, really important that you are communicating to those people instead of people outside of people of the class who are testing the product as it is today. So people, if you have said 100 people should try and use the product first, and if that's your 5%, if you find that only 20 of that one 100 is using the product frequently, speak to them, right? So you don't necessarily have to have a conversation with each and everyone who is alpha testing. If you find that they are more active users than the rest of the class, have a conversation. Why do you keep coming back? What's working for you? What isn't working for you? Do you understand the messaging of the product? Do you understand the UI? Is it intuitive enough for you? Ask the most important questions that would help you move the needle on the product itself. Um, and as you have these conversations, it would really help you understand what can be done to make it an even better product. Test with real life users as often as possible. In fact, that's in this time, I could say that 60% of my time is just spent talking to people, understanding, does the messaging work for you? Does the UI work for you? Is it easy to understand? Do you get what the value of my product is? Because that way I can go back and tweak and tweak and tweak so that I am able to capture more and more value from the users that I'm serving. And of course, learn and iterate fast. I don't know what methodologies people use for product development. There's the agile methodology. There are teams that use the Kanban method. There are teams that use the waterfall. But make sure that as you are learning, you're feeding this information to both your design team, your messaging team, and the engineering team as well, so that they're working together to make the changes as gotten from the insights from your research. Right, so I think I have already done like a breakdown of the points in the slide before, but it's super important that you know who you are hoping to sell to, and then you find them and talk to them about this product. Understand what possible value could they need from you, right? And figure out how to present that value and capture value for it. For example, your power users, as I had mentioned before, if, for example, you have rolled out to 100 people and you find that 20 people are using it more than 80 people, focus on those 20 people, because clearly they are the ones who are getting more value from you. Understand how to ramp up that value when you have conversations with them. So as I said before, in the last 3 months, I've pretty much just spent my time talking to people, spending time on phone calls, compiling reports so that my engineering team, messaging team, and and design teams can work to move the product forward, right? So what I do is I just never stop talking. What's working? Why do you use it? I find that, so I would typically go to my data and say, okay, who is actively using product A compared to product B? If if you know OPay, we do utility payments, for example. I find that people are doing a lot of airtime payments. Why aren't they doing more electricity than airtime? I would get on the phone with people who I would do a drill from my database who has actively used airtime but haven't touched electricity and call them up on the phone. Hello, my name is Sharon Shere. I'd like to know why you are not using electricity. Not in a confrontational way, but in a way that would really help me understand, is it that my product is not solving your problem, if that makes sense, for electricity payments, right? So is the process wrong? Is the failure rates high? Um, are there any challenges with the user flow on the app as of today? What do I need to do to change it? Are there data fields that are missing? Because if I don't take the time to really understand what they say, then I can't improve the product, and I will not be able to capture more and more value from OP the product, right? Another interesting thing is tools. I particularly love Firebase. I think Firebase is an underrated tool. Engineering teams typically would have access to something like Firebase. So Firebase is a tool. I'm going to share the link to Firebase after the call, but you can pretty much see who is doing what on your application. It's super insightful. All the data that you need, drill down to very minute details. Um, it's gold, and I would call it a lifesaver because there are things that research and conversations might not tell you, right? So things like heat maps, what parts of the app are people clicking on? What parts are people not clicking on? Is there a particular reason why people are not going to a particular real estate on your application? These are the kind of insights that you really need to gather from tools like CleverTap, Optimizely, Kiss Metrics, Full Story, and as I mentioned before, Firebase. Um, I would say it again because that's my favorite point. Keep talking to your customers. Your who is more important than who you're building for. Maintain a connection with them, right? Um, it's really, really important to figure out the kind of messaging that would resonate with them, because it's in these conversations that you find words that would pop up again and again across conversations, and then you can see that that's the key word or the key messaging that would most likely convert more users to drive activity on your application or on your product. Test again and test and test. There's no limit to what you can test. There is no such thing as over testing when you're building a product. So there are teams that would do prototype testing. I don't personally do it because I believe in speed. Roll it out, see what the data tells you, and then get on the phone with customers and move the product forward. That's my own personal flow, right? But there are people who would actually just put together a prototype, put it in front of a user. In times like this, you can use a tool called Lookback, right? Put a prototype together, and you can pretty much see on video a user testing that prototype and seeing how they interact with it and give you feedback in real time. It's super, super, super important that you are getting feedback on every minute detail on your product, because it assures you that you are going in the right direction and you are addressing the small pain points in the typical interaction that should happen on your product. For example, if I was making an electricity payment or a TV payment, and on your product you haven't asked me to provide my IUC number or my smart card number, there's a problem there. And so it is very possible to make that mistake if you put a prototype together and you give it to me to test. It's very easy for me to point out, hey, you have missed XYZ out. Please put it in the product, and it's easier to not make a mistake when when you're going live. So get feedback at an early stage, to avoid trouble work for your engineering team. Get approval on the workflow and the menu structure. Involve target the user groups early. Collect new ideas from those conversations, and ultimately save costs. My last point is to iterate fast and pivot if necessary. Fail fast is my own way, right? So I would put the first version of my product together. I would take it live and see what people say. If people think that I have failed, where have I failed? Tell me what to fix, and I would incorporate the changes as quickly as possible and roll it out in a version 2, right? Experiment as much as possible. And in addition to improving your product, right, it's important that you maintain a continued conversation, because it seems like you are selling the notion to the user that you care about actually creating value, right? So I feel like that's a byproduct of continued user conversations, which is super important to being able to be valuable sustainably for your users, right? So having conversations and moving quickly tells people that you care about them and what they think, and they will continue to use or consume your product. So that's the end of my slides. I hope that's helpful. I'm very eager to hear questions, your questions first, and then everybody else's questions. How do I stop sharing? Okay.
It's okay. You can leave your, okay, well, if you like, you can remove the slides. But just in case you might need to make any reference to anything, you can always share your slides back. Yeah, so I'll still leave it open that way. So thank you very much. Can we just applaud Sean for the valuable contributions you just shared right now? Use the raise hand button as a sign of applause. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Sean. This is really remarkable. For those of you who have questions, please use the Q&A button and ask your questions. So while they are doing that, I'll engage you in a few questions, Sean, just to also help our audience have some bit of ideas as to how you can still be involved in product development, even in the midst of crisis in code. So just recently, not too far away, the Lagos State government made a very tough decision that sort of affected the O-rides, and some of the products that OPay is involved in. So I would like you to share, what did this mean to OPay, and how were you guys able to move around that kind of decision? And I'm asking this question so that at least it can help members of our community who are here and those who will yet to watch this, because this is being recorded live.
Yeah.
So that they can have an idea that, okay, so that their crisis or things going wrong does not mean that we can't innovate a way around it, or because products are not cast in stone. Just from what you said, we build products to solve the problems of users and customers, and we also need to be deeply involved with them to do that. So based on this, tell us, after Lagos State, made those kinds of regulations that kind of affected O-Ride, what did this mean to OPay, and what moves did you guys really make? I listened to all the stuff that the press said, but I want to hear, from the director of products now.
I was actually going to say, there was an article yesterday actually by Tech Cabal.
What is it?
There was an article yesterday by Tech Cabal where
Oh,
our
really?
country manager talked about, the core of our business is payments, all right? And
Yeah.
so in a payments business, you create a lot of value verticals, compelling use cases for people to make payments, right?
Yeah.
So our user-facing famous vertical was alright. Yes, it was hard for us, but when you find that you are facing something like that, a regulatory challenge, you're going to have to pivot, right? No matter what kind of business that you do, there is always value in the market to create because we're, we're a huge market and understand what is valuable to these people. Apart from having conversations with these people, understand where user behavior is going, right? If there is more spending in the digital economy today, you can pivot in that direction, if that makes sense. Um, and so it is being super aware of what the realities are today, right? So now we have O Express. We've pivoted from moving people around to moving goods around, if that makes sense.
Awesome.
That that is still value to be created. So if you're really in tune with like where what the market is saying, shortly after we quietly launched O Trade and O Mall. These are businesses that can use our transportation business, right? Because it's if it's a B2B platform where merchants can buy things from wholesalers, so like a B2B exchange, and Omo where it's like end consumers can buy goods all on the same platform, the transportation business would still play a very critical role in you know in serving that expanded ecosystem. So pivot fast, understand what is where the market is heading to, and have conversations with users.
Awesome, awesome. I believe we got that to our audience. So note the word pivot. You have to pivot. That something went wrong in terms of regulation, or I mean the regulations now doesn't mean that everything should come to an end. So
No,
just pivot,
it's
focus on
hard.
creating
It's never
value.
the end. It's hard, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's over.
Awesome, awesome. That's good. So let me ask you another one, just in line, and this is still with respect to OPay before I move to the non-OPay related questions. So I'm glad about what OPay has done, by the way, in terms of pivoting to the O Express. I actually noticed the O Express a lot. So now with the whole COVID-19 stuff, I know OPay is a payments company, and somehow you might be seeing some um, numbers. I don't know what it looks like for OPay, particularly now that we had the lockdown for a period of time. Now things are opening up gradually. Some states have opened up. What's the effect on OPay? I mean, this COVID-19 experience of social distancing. First of all, the Lagos State government had already said, OPay, we don't want you, we don't want the all right. And
And then
now
lockdown started.
the lockdown started and COVID-19. So just help us understand um, how did you manage this kind of situation, particularly with respect to COVID-19?
Actually,
And I would like you to look at
yeah,
this more broadly, not
sure.
just in terms of O Express, or because I know O Express, I saw them kind of really active
Yeah,
during that period of time. And also I noticed a lot of repurposing from just the O Ride to the O Express.
yeah.
So many things you guys kind of did. Can you just give us something kind of really clear and more broadly that can help so that the product developers we have here, because I actually asked the product developers at the Hebron Startup Lab community to join this. I wanted them to really hone a lot of things from this particular session.
Got it. Hey, PMs from Hebron Lab. Okay, so I think that I would start from the implications of COVID-19 for us. lockdown started, people couldn't move around, banks were closed down, but people needed cash. Financial transactions still needed to happen, right? Goods still needed to move from point A to point B, okay? Trade was still happening, okay? And so what we found was it expanded the digital economy somehow. Um, because people couldn't go to banks, they would rather go to an OP agent to conduct a financial transaction. That's one. Oh, right. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
So that's implication number one. Okay. Number two is more and more merchants would onboard to ecosystems where there is an exchange of goods and services for money. You'd find that. I don't have data from Jumia or Konga or all these other platforms, but I can tell that everyone is now going to pivot to I need to digitize my business so that I can continue to offer my value and capture value for it. My mom owns a school, and in my very before, my 59-year-old mom is like creating videos and like going on. She's not even playing with you. She's up till 3 a.m. And so if I'm seeing that behavior from a 59-year-old, imagine how that behavior has cascaded through the economy. It's like everybody is going to want to offer their goods or their services online. Now, that gives digital players like OPay, Paystack, Flutterwave a fantastic opportunity. I don't know if you've seen Flutterwave advertising, set up your business online in 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
That's an e-commerce play because everybody now wants to sell in the digital economy, right? So that played to our own advantage. OPay, Paystack, everyone who have established their value in the ecosystem, right? So in terms of transactions that would happen, as I mentioned before, bank shutdown. The only bank branch that people knew now is mobile money agents. Paga had shared the same experience that they have seen a boom in their transaction volumes because again there's no bank open, right? But I need to send money to my mom in Oyo State or Imo State, right? So essentially, people have now started to see agents as bank branches, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, you're able to touch a bit. I've brought Tofumi up here. I'm sure you can see her picture there. She might have a question. So while she's trying to put her questions together, she's actually the head of the Hebron Startup Lab talent community for executors. Okay, so I'm going to give her the room to ask you some questions directly on behalf of her team shortly. So while she's getting herself ready for that, and while our audience putting up their own questions, I just have a few more questions just to share with you, and so you can answer them.
Sure.
So COVID-19 is making us also rethink a lot of things, and I'm asking this question. This is not open now, so relax. This is more of around design and product development. So we are seeing the need to begin to focus on products that are contactless. Now, I'm thinking that some things we can begin to design be the perspective of contactless, but there are some things that we might not be able to. So I'd just like you to share from the viewpoint of an innovator and a product developer. What's the essence of that? Will this actually work out? How will this happen more sustainably? We open our doors, for instance, with our hands. We drive with our hands. We greet people with our hands. So virtually everything we do with our hands.
I like that you said that because that touches on the first thing that I'm always going to mention when it comes to innovation, right? You have to balance innovation with user behavior when you're thinking about adoption, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if I have a credit card product, for example, this is just a wild example, and I take it to Zanzibar, no, Ghana, where pretty much everyone has an MTN mobile money wallet. Am I going to, is it, it's a fantastic innovation. It's like, oh, your credit cards can, I don't know, somersault and produce gold, but the user behavior doesn't understand this my innovation. So I've innovated it for my pocket, essentially. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So in your equation for building new things, it's important that you study user behavior and you localize it with that in context, right? So, for example, my nanny takes my son on a walk. This is just an example. And she's not used to, she's still learning the idea of, you know, don't touch the railings, Sheree. Don't don't use your hand sanitizer. If I build a product that doesn't take that into account, it will be very difficult for her to adopt that product. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So yes, I see that there is a case for contactless products, but please take into account that
The
people,
behavior. Yeah.
the behavior, the ecosystem. So there's a saying that I love to share with people that I discuss product with. I'm like, tap into their everyday life, tap into the ecosystems that they exist in, because it's easier to introduce innovation that way. And you must do it incrementally. So I saw a video once on Twitter of this guy who'd ordered a box of pizza. He lives on like maybe the 20th floor of his building, and then a drone came up with the box of pizza uh, and presented like a POS machine, and it was contacted because it was NFC payment. So he just like tapped it and he paid for the pizza. But I'm like, can you do this in Africa? You can't. It is very innovative, but you can't like I mean you are very free to bring it, and everybody will hail you on Twitter, but the everyday Nigerian, is he going to use it?
Yeah.
No. So take the time to really understand who you are building for.
Yeah.
You
The
must
behavior.
balance between moving the needle and meeting people where they are, so that you're able to actually capture value. Because
Awesome.
it is very possible for you to build something just so you'll be looking at it and say, oh, this, I'm so smart, this is wonderful, and just, I'm the best. That's fantastic. But if you are looking to build something and actually capture value for it, please make it a mix of the two.
So the human behavior component is very crucial, not just about trying to solve a problem. We have to consider the human behavior component. Awesome, awesome. I don't know if Tofumi is ready, or I should just continue with my Tofumi. Are you
Yes,
there?
yes, I'm here.
Hi, Tiffany.
Yes.
Hi, so good afternoon. Thank you so much for the enlightening presentation. I really learned a whole lot. And thank you for the introduction, Dr. Steven. So currently we have quite a number of undergraduates who are looking to come into the product space, product development, product management, different areas. We have founders of startups who are also developing products. And my question would be more on your personal development side and how you've developed yourself in the product world. Because we have people coming from different areas, studying different courses, and they have some sort of belief that, oh, you need to be technical, you need to be good at design, you need to be a business person. So I would, exactly. So I would really love if you could try and explain to them what they really need to succeed in the role. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's a very important question, because I think that there's a lot of mystery around what product managers do. I would give you a bit of a background of how I morphed into this role. So at Covenant University, I don't know if they still do it, but I was very lucky, and I was like, I would take full advantage of it. They would offer these professional courses at subsidized rates, right? As at the time that I became an SAP associate consultant, there were only a handful of us in the world, and it was what? It was like, it was really cheap, and like it was like close to nothing. And then I took another course called Project Management with CompTIA, the CompTIA P Plus.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that sparked my interest in, okay, project management is an established body of knowledge, but how do you then apply that to software development, right?
Yeah.
I tried to find projects that I could sort of build that muscle in at KPMG, but then it is an advisory firm. It doesn't build software products. But then I got my chance at actually, playing with product when I moved to Paystack. Essentially, I would share 4 things that I think have helped. First of all, I'm a generalist. I'm somebody who is, I want to know a little bit about most things. If you ask me a little bit about Rome in when Alexander the Great fell, I probably would tell you a thing or two, right? So you should be a generalist. That's the first ingredient. I don't think that there are prerequisites for being a great PM, apart from one, being terribly curious. So understanding design concepts, for example. If you're curious enough, you can take a course on what are the basic design principles. How can I approve a design and say this is intuitive enough, right? You can take a course on Coursera. There's content that some really good designers in Nigeria have put together as well. 2, understand how data works. So I have said design. I'm now talking about data. It's really important that you're able to harness data to understand what the data is saying. The biggest and the best storyteller is data, right? So if you're able to sort of play with it to understand what is the data saying, then you're better able to make decisions, because the bulk of what a PM does is he listens and he makes decisions, right? So there's that. Although I honestly wish I studied computer science. I love that I studied business. I'm a fantastic, I think that I'm a good mix of business and tech, but understanding basic engineering principles, being able to hold a conversation with your engineering team is a huge plus, right? Sure. One other thing that I absolutely love that I think is a plus for me as a product leader is I'm currently taking a course in QA engineering, right? So QA engineering are basically quality assurance engineers. They basically say, okay, this I can from a technical standpoint see that a product has met my requirements, because the beginning of the product cycle is a PM writes a product requirement document that says, I want this product to have X scope. This is what the roadmap looks like. These are the kind of APIs I would require to make the product happen. So having a bit of technical knowledge would be fantastic. But I will go back to my first point. A PM is a generalist. So don't be, there's no hard and fast rule to it. I am not a strong technical person, but I'm great with design and messaging. Key messaging is a really, really big, it's a really big part of selling a product. If you've built the best product in the world, but you don't exactly pass on messaging that is going to resonate with the people that you are trying to sell it to, then it becomes difficult to actually capture value from that product, right? So sure. I would say the first thing is being a generalist. The second one is be curious. The other 3 legs, I would say, is design, understanding APIs, QA testing, and maybe messaging, right? But these are things that you can. I would at the beginning of my product career, I used to like Google what do PMs do.
I'm
What
sorry,
does
so just to help some of our audience, can you say what UBIs means? UBIs.
APIs is like
API.
Okay, I thought you said UBIs. Okay.
so an API is an application programming interface. It's basically like the back-end engineering stuff that these engineering guys who wear hoods, hoodies and t-shirts, that's pretty much what they work on. But that's what makes the product function. It's like the functionality of the product itself, right? Is a product able to transfer money from this bank account to another bank account? It is in working on APIs that you're able to do that. So that's like the back-end engineering stuff. We are the cool guys who say who say what the product looks like, what the product should be able to do. So yeah, that's what APIs are. So for me, has that given you a bit of insight on how to go about building your product management career?
Definitely, definitely. Thank
There
you
is
so
there
much.
is also a course going on that's free at the moment by the product school. Their master class. It's actually like it was the original price was about $2,000,
Yes,
but it's free now. So
yes, I took it.
I'll share the link with Dr. Stephen.
Thank you so much.
No
Thank you,
worries.
Xiao. This was an amazing answer.
Awesome. So Tofimi, are you good?
I am. If I
Okay.
have any more, I'll type it.
Okay, it's okay. All right, so thanks a lot. So I don't want to be greedy, so let's go straight to the Q&A button to see what questions that they have for you. So Shane, if you look at your own end, you'll find the Q&A button there.
I can see the open questions. Okay, I'll start with Fisaya's question.
Awesome.
Would I recommend the Agile for product development? You also sent me a LinkedIn request. Okay, I will have a look. So the thing is, it depends on your team, right? I think that there's a lot to, consider before you make that decision. That process doesn't work for my team because we have because of the structure of the team, it doesn't work for us. So I think it depends on your team, the structure, what you're trying to do, the kind of pace that you want before you make that kind of decision. I personally, in our team, we use Kanban. So we basically take one task, finish it, or if we have a host of 2 to 3 priorities, our team would take one task, finish it before moving on to the next, if that makes sense. We don't do sprints. We do stand-ups, yes, but marathon for us, you see. I hope. Product idea. I'll share the deck that I worked on with Dr. Stephen, and I hope that would answer your question. Oluwa Tobiloba, for creative entrepreneurs, which is ideally, wow. Hi, Bonnie. Hi, Bonnie. Because I work in finance, I always think about money. Of course, what role does targeting, measuring real actual profitability, such as cost benefit analysis, play in developing? That's a brilliant question. So apart from like being tech people, product managers also have a business sense. So before you make a decision on whether or not to invest the time and resources at your disposal to work on a particular project, you should have a sense of how much value you're going to be able to capture when you roll out that product, right? Think about if I take this product live, would I be able to sell to 1,000 users? How much would that make me? Does that make sense? Because that way, it then helps you make a decision on whether or not to embark on the project in the first place. So yeah, we think about how much it will cost us in in terms of engineers' time, in terms of all the other costs that make up your cost structure as a business. But for tech businesses, it's mostly engineering resources. Um, and then think about how much you could potentially make from that product, right? For a super app like OPay, for example, there are many things that we're making money from, and so the way that I'm going to have to sort of analyze that is different. But if you have just one sole feature or one product, think about it in terms of your cost versus how much you're going to make over time, your marketing cost, things like that. And I hope that answers Bonnie's question. Ayo Dawadu, have you had any time in your career had to kill features in the product you managed? Yes, if you find that a product isn't working, if the data is saying to you that people are not going to touch it. So there was a product where on Switch, the digital bank that I worked on, there was a request money feature, which I thought was great. I absolutely loved it. But the data was telling me that of my 500 beta users, the only people who were using it were my team members who were fascinated by the feature. And so I didn't see the need for the product itself. It felt like it was just a feature for us to be happy with ourselves and say, oh my God, we're so smart. But people didn't see the value in it. Now, I had two choices. I didn't get around to making that decision, but there are two options when you're faced with a decision like that or a reality like that. You either find out, is it that the key messaging or the copy around the product isn't correct, in that do people understand the value of this of the feature that I built? If you get on a phone call with people who have done other things on the product, but that feature, ask them if they've seen it, ask them if they understand the value proposition. Because what you'd find is what you think is simple messaging, people don't understand it. It doesn't resonate with them. And so because it doesn't exactly strike them as a valuable thing, they won't venture into it. That's option one. Option two is to move it somewhere else, right? In the product, right? So if you change the UI UX a bit, then you might see that the conversion might change. If you find that those two are not working, you can kill the feature. Obsidian. What happens when you think a product is properly tested and all, but then customers start encountering issues using the product? Oh no, you don't roll it back. You just fix it, right? So in product development, some teams have something called a release calendar. So if you find that your next release date is in a week, you have a week to fix that problem. But you must really understand what the problem is by having conversations with users. Was it the error message that was wrong? Was it the UI that was bad? Understand the problem so that you can fix it. I don't think you're going to have to roll back a product based on, I mean, products break every day. Get used to it. Mushakwe, what would you say are the key gaps in transiting from project management to product management? Understanding product itself. So how are products built? How do engineering teams work? What goes into design? What goes into factoring or coining a product requirements document? What does it mean to go from idea to product, if that makes sense? I would share the masterclass link with Dr. Stephen again. I think that would give you a more robust answer. I really want to do something productive this holiday, but I'm really confused on even where to start from. Do the course that I think I should just share it here. Let me find the link and share it here. Product school.
You can put it in the chat section.
I'm doing that now.
Awesome.
Okay, I think I'm done with the answers. All right, I posted it on the chat section.
All right. So that's it, everyone. You can take full advantage of that. Copy the link and take full advantage of that. I think we have 2 more questions. Oh, someone just, as a person, what informs your choice of picking a master's degree? Is it the business or knowledge? This is by Mariah Akinfesi.
Oh, Mariah, it depends on where you are, right? I'm in management. I'm leading a fantastic business. And so I find that I'm teaching MBA classes. I teach the MBA, the executive MBA class at Unilag. I teach in Covenant University, and I'm actually getting my hands dirty and actually doing the business. Somebody on my team who has just joined as an intern is from the Harvard MBA class. So in terms of the knowledge itself, I'm doing it and I'm constantly learning. So if I were to pay for a master's degree, I'm paying for it for networking purposes. But that's my own context, right? For somebody else who hasn't exactly started a career, you can do it for the knowledge, to seem more knowledgeable to people who would most likely employ you. So I guess it's a function of where you are and what you want, because I'm looking to build my network to be able to capture more value for the value that I provide to companies. Does that make sense?
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Xiao. Let me ask you a few more questions before we release you to go. So product development is cool. Many people like to be involved in it, but there is this one problem that I see often around that. So for most product directors, well, not most, maybe some, they may not have the engineering background to bring to life the things that they have planned or direct in terms of developing a product. So this brings to the fore the need to be able to bring together the right team of engineers who have the capacity to make this thing happen, as well as the character needed to actually deliver on time as is needed to be delivered. And I'm bringing this to the fore because I know you've experienced challenges around that. I've personally experienced challenges around that. But I want to know, so that our audience can also have some lessons to learn from that. How can product managers, entrepreneurs, startup founders, or product managers or developers, how can they manage situations like this in bringing in the right team, managing the cases of maybe lack of capacity, and in the case where there's capacity, how do you handle the character issue in terms of delivering on time? Because we have some who try to get some other jobs to to get some private things done, which gets them so engaged they don't have time to actually focus and build products as as you expect as a product director.
So as I mentioned before, I wish I was more technical. I definitely wish that I was, and I'm trying to build that muscle. Where I have gaps, I make sure to have people on my team who can cover for those gaps, right? Because I'm not as technical, I am not, I've barely written in a line of code. I only wrote a line of code when I was like playing around, right? And it was some really basic HTML thing. But I'm very involved in how decisions are taken in the engineering team. And I try to be as well versed as possible on the best approaches to building products, right? You don't want to take an approach that would create technical debt and threaten the sustainability of your product as you scale. And so having an engineer in your head, or by your side, who you can ask questions. Like my first real project where I was on my own, I was building a team on my own, I had a network of people that I was asking questions literally every day. I would have them literally come and have a look at every single thing I was doing, and they'll point me in the right direction and walk you through it. And these are conversations that still happen today, right? So where you know that you don't have enough skill, lean on other people, right, to help you make a decision. It doesn't take away the power of I'm the decision maker, because as the PM, you set the milestones, you set the timelines. But you had also mentioned something about struggling with teams who take on side gigs. If you are going to have a vision, the first, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a business leader, one of the first things that you do is to sell the vision to yourself first, and then to your team. Sell the vision such that no matter how many other things I'm doing, as you know, I have a mother care business that I absolutely love and care about. But OPE, because I'm so vested in OPE's vision is number one for me, if that makes sense, at the moment, because my skin's in the game. I'm fully vested in it. And it's the same across my team. You must sell the vision so that they are part owners of it, if that makes sense. Let people have as much interest in moving the product forward as you do. So what you must do, so it's like you are leading with influence. You're not leading with, I'm the boss and you must build my product. That's not how it works. Engineers are, they're a special breed. And so the best way to lead them is with influence. It's like, don't bribe them with pizzas too much because they will catch you. But sell the vision in such a way that they are just as vested in the product succeeding as you are.
Awesome. So there's a question I want to ask you now, but I'm thinking it's going to take maybe us having you back here to share on that. And that's on how do you build a community of power users? How do you build a community?
That's the one. That's a good one.
That's another lecture kind of, but can you just share like a brief, we're still going to have you back, you share details on that. How do you build a community of power users?
So remember how I said, user research has to take front and center. That would really help you understand, hey, who is using the product. Your data would tell you who is doing the highest number of transfers. Why? I'm curious. Because there are many other platforms for you to do transfers. So your data would most likely tell you that. What you then do is to make sure to have a continued conversation with them, right? To really understand, how come you're getting more value from this than the next guy? How can I make it even more valuable? That's my short answer. For more, you follow this link for the next class.
Awesome. Can we just applaud Sean? Use the raise hand button. Just applaud Sean for the amazing contribution there, Shesme. Thank you so much, Sean. You've done remarkably well. We're so blessed to have you and for the things that you shared. And thank you for what you're doing at OPE and what you have done at Paystack and the places that you. But thank you for what you're doing also at EduStart.
Thank you. I feel like I'm like very active here, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity. Thank you for having me.
We're grateful for having you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for making it to be here. I believe you learned a lot. As I mentioned, we are recording this already on YouTube live. You can just go to my channel, Stephen Oluwatobi. You find it there. So you can always, for those who miss it, you can always go back there and make reference to this and build yourself, sharpen up yourself. I also said you should follow Sean on social media in case you have any private question that you might have regarding product development. She'll be willing to help you. I'm sure she'll be available to help.
Yes, I would be.
Thank you so much. So thank you so much, everyone. I think this has been an amazing and very impactful session. I'm really appreciative, Sean. Thank you so much.
No worries at all. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.